Cormoran the Giant has many legends associated with him, but he's probably best known as the giant who, some say, with the aid of his wife, Cormelian, created the tidal island of St. Michael's Mount, which lies a few hundred yards off the coast of Cornwall. He's said to have built the island by carrying blocks of white granite across the sea from the mainland. Cormelian was said to have helped him by carrying the granite blocks in her apron. From here he would wade across the short stretch of sea to the Cornish mainland to steal sheep and cattle from the local farmers. In one version of the legend, Cormoran grew weary carrying the blocks and took a rest falling asleep. His wife carried on working but decided to fetch green stones instead of white granite because it was nearer. Cormoran woke when she was halfway across. Seeing she was bringing different blocks of stone, he grew angry and kicked her. This caused her to let go of her apron, which allowed the stone to fall into the sea, forming Chapel Rock. In local folklore, Cormoran was said to have had a friend known as the Giant of Trencrom. The two were said to throw boulders back and forth to each other for fun. This is said to be the reason why there are so many loose boulders scattered around the area. According to one version of the legend, one day the Trencrom giant hurled a huge hammer for Cormoran to catch, but the hammer hit Cormelian, killing her. She was said to have been buried at Chapel Rock. The name Cormoran is not thought to be of Cornish origin, though it may relate to Corinius, the legendary founder of Cornwall, who wrestled and defeated a giant whose name was Gogmagog. The name Cornwall is believed to be derived from the name Corinius. It may be that this fight was an early precursor to the legends associated with Cormoran. According to folklorist Joseph Jacobs in the English fairy tale Jack the Giant Killer, Cormoran measures 18 feet tall and has a waist circumference of 9 feet. He's also said to have 6 digits on each hand and foot. His home was a cave on St. Michael's Mount, where he walks across to the mainland at low tide to forage for food. According to Jacobs, he would eat men, women, children, and any animal he came across. He caused so much trouble, the councillors of Penzance called a meeting one day to find a plan to deal with him. After much discussion, it was decided to offer Cormoran's treasure to anyone who would rid Cornwall of him for good. A farmer's boy named Jack decided to take up the challenge. One evening, Jack swam across to the island and began digging a pit on the path the giant was accustomed to using in the morning when he woke up from sleep. Jack worked through the night and by dawn had managed to dig a pit deep enough to bury the giant completely. In some versions, this takes place on St. Michael's Mount, but in others, it takes place in Morva. However, all versions agree that at sunrise, Jack blew a loud blast on a horn, causing Cormoran to wake with a start. Getting up from sleep, Cormoran rushes out of his cave to see what is happening. Jack is waiting and calls the giant's name and taunts him. In a rage, the giant chases Jack down the path with the morning sun in his eyes. In the nick of time, Jack jumps over the pit, but the giant has the sun in his eyes and does not see it and falls into the pit. Jack grabs his pickaxe, which he had left ready, and drives it into the giant's head, killing him. According to the Morva version, a huge boulder was placed over the pit containing the giant, and the place is known as Giant's Grave. Local legend says that sometimes the ghost of the giant can be heard underneath. Jack then collects Cormoran's treasure, as was agreed with the grateful councillors of Penzance. The people were delighted with Jack for ridding them of Cormoran, and gave him a belt with the following inscription written upon it: "Here's the right valiant Cornish man who slew the giant Cormoran." Cormoran was the first giant Jack killed, and was to set him on his way to becoming the famous giant killer of folklore.